Great. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Today, we're excited to have a conversation with Julissa Reynoso, who's the Chief of Staff to the First Lady, Jill Biden, and moms from across the country about the child tax credit and the president's vision for relief for families. So, Julissa, first want to welcome you.
Greetings to everyone. It's a real pleasure to be with you all here today. As mentioned, I'm Julissa. I'm Dr. Biden's Chief of Staff, and I'm also a co-chair of the Gender Policy Council here at the White House. So very excited that today is the day for the child tax credit to finally get to families.
Wonderful. And we're joined by some moms from across the country. So moms, if you could please introduce yourselves, we'd love that.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Julissa. My name is Daniella Knight, and I live in Annapolis, Maryland. I work 2 part-time jobs as a pediatric sleep consultant and as a realtor. And my husband works for the federal government. We have 3 amazing kids, ages 4, 6, and 10, who keep us very, very busy. And we're very grateful for today. Thank you.
Terrific.
And I'm Alexandra Lanteros, and I live in Durham, North Carolina with my husband and our fabulous 4-year-old daughter. Lucia is her name, and I work with Poder NC Action, a really wonderful nonprofit. After a couple of years of struggling to find employment, but I'm lucky to have this opportunity now. And my husband is a graduate student at UNC Chapel Hill.
Nice to meet you, Alexandra.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
Hi, I'm Victoria Snyder. I'm based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I have a 3.5-year-old son named Braxton. I'm a small business consultant and also own my own small business, Self-Care Senorita.
Wonderful. Nice to meet you, Victoria.
Wonderful to meet you.
Good morning. I am Teresa Mares. I am from San Antonio, Texas. I have a 22-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old son with autism. Before the pandemic, I was a hairstylist and a makeup artist, and my situation was that I had stayed home with my during the pandemic to help him remote learn. But thank you for having me.
Nice to meet you, Teresa.
Thank you all so much for sharing your stories. I'm a mom too, to a 1-year-old. So this is a screen full of moms, which makes me really happy. Julissa,
I have a 5-year-old, so
your 5-year-old son. Yeah, we're all
That's
in
right.
the same boat. And the pandemic has shown how hard parenting is, right? But Julissa, we've noticed there are a number of questions that we're seeing from the community about what the child tax credit really is.
Yes.
There is some confusion. So we're just going to ask you a few of those questions. So Daniella, if you want to go ahead and ask the first question we're seeing from the community.
Sure. The first thing that we wanted to know is who is eligible to receive the child tax credit? So
the child tax credit is targeting families with children under the age of 17 or younger. So any family household making over under $150,000 is eligible for payments per child. So if you have a child that's 6 or younger, you will receive $3,600,000. If you have children older than 6, you should be receiving $3,000. Again, capped at $150,000 income per couple. If you are a single parent, the cap for receiving these payments is $112,000 with $500. So $112,500 is the cap per single head of household. Again, you must have a Social Security number, some form of, or an ITIN number for your children and for yourself.
Great.
Thank you so much.
And I know Teresa had a little follow-up question to that. So Teresa, if you want to ask a
Yes,
question.
thank you. Thank you. So what about families who didn't file taxes last year or the year before?
So there are families who made too little money to file taxes, or didn't think it was appropriate to file taxes. Those parents are also eligible to receive the benefit. To do so, however, they have to file a form on a website that we've created just for the purpose of the tax credit. And that website is childtaxcredit.gov. So the majority of families don't have to do anything because they filed taxes either in 2019 or 2020 to cover those years, right? That's the vast majority of the country. But there is an important minority of families that did not file, and they should go to that page and submit the paperwork, which is essentially the name, their address, obviously their names, the children, social security number, and an ITIN number. And again, most of those folks are families that made under the 24,000 or so threshold to file taxes, but they should submit their form because they too are eligible for that benefit.
Beautiful. Thank you, Julissa. I know there's been a lot of questions in our community, just like, do I qualify? What do I have to do to get it? And folks should know, as Julissa said, if you've already filed your taxes for 2019 and 2020, you'll start to receive those payments automatically starting July 15th. You don't have to do anything.
Today.
Yeah.
So most folks should be looking at their bank account today because the vast majority of people I know get automatic payments through their bank account, and they should be receiving, again, a portion of the total amount, right? So because the way the payments will work is that you will receive monthly installments. So per child, if the child is 6 or under, it should be about $350. If the child is older than 6, it's about $300 per month going through December. And then the remaining amount, the difference, you will receive next year when you file your taxes. So folks should check their bank account today. If you do not have automatic payments, you will receive a check in the mail.
Thank you so much. It is for me. Thank you, Julissa. Moms, could you tell us a little bit about what the pandemic has been like for you, and how these monthly payments are going to impact you? I know some of you shared the stories of how you've had to leave your jobs to take care of your children full time. So interested to hear how these payments will directly benefit you and your families.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. Like so many working moms and single moms, I had to leave my job of my career of 15 years during the pandemic. I was a hairstylist and a makeup artist, like I said before. I have a child with special needs, and he needed a lot of help remote learning. He could not work independently and be able to stay on task. And so it was, we took a big hit, in terms of my income and stuff like that. But the child tax credit is going to help us out a lot. Even just now, this new deposit is helping me stay in my apartment for another month. So that's a big deal, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
That's terrific. That's why, at the end of the day, that's how these policies that we come up with in Washington means, that's when it really means something, when your families can really see a benefit directly in their livelihoods and their ability to take care of their children and be just a little bit more secure and a little bit more comfortable.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I guess I'll go next. This has been a real benefit to us because when the pandemic hit, it was very, very tough for our family. Before COVID, I was actually working 3 jobs, not just as a pediatric sleep consultant and realtor, but I was also managing a small property management firm. And we could never afford childcare for our 3 kids. And so my husband and I worked staggered schedules But then the pandemic hit and my kids started doing remote schooling, and I did not have access to any paid leave. So that caused a huge financial strain for us and made it very difficult to keep up with our bills and financial commitments. Now with the child tax credit, it's going to be an enormous help as we recover. And it's actually enabled us to pay for some summer activities for our children, which is the reason that I am joining you today.
Excellent.
because they're actually at camp and enjoying themselves and doing something that's going to help them grow. And then in the fall, it's going to help us be able to send our 4-year-old to preschool so that he can get ready for kindergarten, and I'm going to be able to focus on work. So we're extremely grateful for the work that Congress has put into helping families as they recover and also be able to be so much a part of the economy and
That's
thrive.
terrific. Wonderful, Daniella.
Thank
I'm so
you.
glad you're able to have more peace of mind to now explore going back to work more fully outside of your house. That's terrific.
Thank you so much.
Who's next?
I can go next. So yes, my family has always struggled with the high cost and low availability of affordable childcare, especially being far away from family and not having that support network. And since our daughter was born, my husband has been in and out of 2 different graduate programs, trying to finish the second one. And so it's actually, we had in our situation, part of the reason he struggled with finishing the grad school program is that he became a stay-at-home dad for a large part of our daughter's early childhood. And we wanted it to be the other way around. I wanted to actually stay at home, but just financially, that didn't work. So I struggled to find a job that would give me flexibility and enough income to support the family. And so when the pandemic hit, it was a struggle because I had actually just lost a job with a startup. And so my husband's in graduate school, I'm unemployed, so we couldn't afford childcare, and we didn't qualify for the North Carolina has a program for a subsidy, but because they based it on my previous income, pay stubs, I didn't qualify. And so anyway, we've been through so many different iterations. And then our daughter also being on the spectrum and having respiratory issues, we had to, when the pandemic hit, we actually just pulled her out of preschool. And then because we couldn't afford it anyway, and we'll just keep her at home. But yeah, so definitely the child tax credit is going to provide that stability. So regardless of what our financial situation is, and that's been the trickiest thing, it's always tied into like our pay stubs which have not been stable at all. So so this will definitely help us out a lot.
That's wonderful. And I hope your husband finishes the degree soon.
We hope so too. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hello. So on March 15, 2020, I lost all of my consulting contracts because of COVID. And on March 7th, 2020, daycare closed. And so as a single mom out of work, my son was home. We were also just navigating a new diagnosis of sensory processing disorder. So trying to figure out how we were going to get OT and all our other services virtually was really difficult. Daycare ended up opening back up at the middle of June, which was great, but still trying to figure out how to get work and contracting work so I can be home to take care of him and do these other things. COVID was really hard on our family because my grandmother contracted COVID in November, and since then has been in and out of the hospital and has really been failing. I'm this sandwich generation, so I'm taking care of my grandmother and helping with my mom. And my mom helps me with my son, which is an amazing support system, as I think many families in America have, different families living in the same home. But then also taking care of him and then trying to take care of me and running a company, starting a company in a pandemic and still trying to make ends meet. So it's been really difficult. But this credit allows me to know that at least part of daycare is covered. So the additional work that I'm doing can be used to either go to savings or pay another bill or utility, or have some cushion room that I'm not fearing, you know, if this contract ends, what happens next, or what do I do next?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry about your grandmother.
Thank you.
But I'm glad, you know, through this benefit, you and your family are going to have a bit more breathing room
Yes.
to do things that make your life a little easier and
Yes.
help you keep, you know, building on your professional career, which is so important, right? Long term, to take care of the rest of the family. Most often, women in particular have to manage so many different pieces of the story that is their family, especially in Latino communities. You have so many generations kind of coming together, and women are principally the ones that have to manage all the different affairs involved in that caregiving. So to be able to give you just a bit more support so you can manage all those different moving parts is, I think, really important. So I'm glad this government is able to do that for you.
Thank you.
I just hope our goal is to make this a permanent arrangement so that, you know, in the years to come, every one of you will be able to receive this benefit going forward. So wish us luck as we try to get that through Congress. But in the meantime, at least we have this for this year.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories. It's hard to like keep it together while you're going through that. So I thank you for that. And, you know, before we wrap up this program, Julissa, I don't know if you have any final words on the child tax credit that you might want to share, but I feel like we've covered a lot of ground.
Yes. Thank you to all of you for being really brave and having the resilience to keep things moving under just really with such complexity over the last year. I mean, under normal circumstances, it's hard to do all you do with children and extended family and keeping a professional life. This past year has been especially challenging and hard. So thank you for doing all you do and for sharing your stories with me. I and this administration really appreciate hearing all these stories and your experiences, because at the end of the day, it gives us the reasoning, the foundation, kind of the logic as to why we got to keep doing what we're doing, right? Because we can come up with a lot of different things that seem interesting in theory, but again, at the end of the day, what really matters is how all these policies and projects and legislation, really how they all impact people's lives. So I'm really proud that we were able to get this done, and I'm so glad it's bringing all of you in particular and your neighbors and your communities and your friends and girlfriends and the like a real additional support. And again, we hope we can make this permanent. But in the meantime, at least over the next year, I think it's going to be really meaningful to a lot of people. And you all shared that with me today. So I'm very happy we're having an impact.
Thank you.
I would love if the policymakers could see us and see our kids, to see those pretty faces, to see like the difference that they're making. It makes a huge difference when you could see them, to see us, to know that we're just not a number on a piece of paper.
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing you now, but you know, make sure your congressperson and your senators, that they all know also what this means to you, because at the end of the day, we collectively are doing our best here, but obviously we just got to keep the fight so that we can continue giving resources and support to families so that you all can be, you know, freer to be professionals and economic agents in your own communities. So thank you.
Thank you all. That
Thank you very
concludes
much.
our program. Before we depart, I just want to repeat the website that Julissa said, childtaxcredit.gov. I know Moms Rising also has resources, so momsrising.org/child tax credit. And we will also have it in español, mamásconpoder.org/Crédito Tributario por Hijos. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you to Julissa for joining us. Thank you to the
Anytime.
wonderful moms for sharing your story. Thanks, everybody.
Take
Thank you
care.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Good luck.
much. Thank you very much.